So for this video, I knew I wanted to do kind of a smaller build, so I decided to go ahead and do a 5x5 challenge. I really like the 4x4, 3x3, all of those challenges because I think it's really kind of difficult to fit everything into such a small space. And the fact that it's difficult makes it kind of fun. I definitely struggled quite a bit with the floor plan. I went ahead and cut all of that out of the video, but when I was going through and editing the footage, I it was crazy how many times I ended up switching things around. I just could not get it to work. Um you can see in the front, I didn't want it to be super flat, but I did want to make use of most of the space. So I went ahead and in the front, there's kind of, I don't know if I'd call it a porch, but there is a couple steps up in the front. And then on the top floor, there's a 2x3 balcony, which definitely used up some of the space. But like I said, I feel like just making sure that the build isn't all flat is really important. So that's why I went ahead and did that. I didn't really know too much of the vibe I wanted to go for. Just I think it's kind of easier to do something that's pretty flat. So I would say it's a pretty modern house. The color scheme is black, white, and brown, which I know black and white can be a little stark, but I think that I try to use a nice warm brown to try to bring some life back into the build, if that makes sense. So hopefully there's a good balance of those three colors. As you can see, I did some custom framing on the windows, which was very tedious. I don't often do custom windows, but I thought it was really necessary for this build to make the windows stand out more. I ended up cutting out the footage of me doing the big windows, but I did the same thing with just some smaller framing on the sides and in the middle, and then some thicker ones on the top and bottom. I don't know what it's called, the lines that are in the middle of the windows, but I added a bunch of those and I think that that turned out really nice. So I'm currently editing and I had to look this up because I was curious, but it is called a Muntin bar, and I went ahead and put the definitions on screen just in case anyone is curious in the way that I am. I was deciding whether to put the bathroom on the top of their bottom floor, but I ended up doing the bottom floor just because there's a little more space down there. And also, I don't always I mean, it is a game, so it doesn't have to be realistic, but I do think it's kind of nice when the floor plans feel a little more like they would be functional in real life. And I think a bathroom downstairs would make a lot more sense because that way if you had guests or something over, they wouldn't have to go all the way upstairs into your bedroom and your personal space to use the bathroom. So I like that quite a bit better. You'll see I put that in the top right corner of the build. I think it's just a 2x2, not too much room for that. I went back and forth on what to do with the little nook that's behind the stairs. I did try a window there, but I ended up wanting the space to be functional instead, so I ended up changing that to a shelving space, which was great because it added more space for me to put some of the functional appliances. I think I end up adding a coffee pot and a toaster. Overall, considering how small the build is, I feel like the floor plan is pretty nice actually. I mean, there's a decent amount of counter space in the kitchen, and then the one thing is that there isn't a table and chair, but I feel like when you have a super small space, that's kind of one of the things you can get away with leaving out. I mean, sure, it's nice to have somewhere to sit and eat, but I feel like if you have a living room that has a sofa and a coffee table, that can kind of be the eating space instead. There wasn't much room in the living room, but I wanted to fit as much seating as I could. So I used 3 sectionals and kind of smushed those together. So that way there's technically 3 seats. And then I put together some of those I guess you'd call them cubbies, for some extra storage in the living room. Kind of made my own modular set. I originally used one of the console tables that's in the game, but it wasn't quite what I wanted, so I kind of just rebuilt it using basic shapes. You'll see that in a bit, and I think that that was a really good way to use up that space and make that wall look complete. It's funny because I actually recorded this video Last year. I was looking at the date and it was actually March of 2024. So I did this build quite a long time ago now, but I just never got around to editing the footage. So there's probably some things that I would change now, but I didn't want to go back and mess with anything. I think that if I built something in the past, I'd rather just like leave it the way it is. And I think it's kind of fun because you can also see like how much you've like improved or like how your style has changed in building over time. One thing that I definitely noticed about the build is the colors. I definitely prefer using like more colors in my build, so I was kind of surprised I went for such like a monochrome color scheme. I have quite a few other builds and I love like saturated colors and a lot of plants and things like that. So this one's a little bit different from all those. I would really love in the future to do like a build tour of all of my other builds that I've done in the past. It's crazy like how much this game has like changed since when I first started playing it. Like the addition of basic shapes made such a big difference. I love taking the time to like build my own furniture and stuff with basic shapes, but oh my gosh, it makes building like overall take so much longer when you're building custom pieces for like every room in the house. I think that's one of the main reasons why I prefer to do smaller builds, because I'm very like detail oriented and kind of a perfectionist. So I really like taking my time on like each part of the build. And if I'm doing a super big build, then I don't really have the motivation to finish it because I'm just taking so long on like every little part. I remember one time when I tried to like make a mansion, and I think I got through like making the exterior and like the entryway, and like there was like a whole bridge and gardens on the outside, and then I never came back to it. Partly because I was burnt out, and second of all, it was before we had custom colors, and I just hated that the whole thing was just like gray, and it just felt like it had no life to it, and I just could not finish that build. So yeah, I love the basic shapes, I love the structurals, and I love the custom colors. Makes such a big difference. I feel like old Bloxburg players all remember using, what was it, I think linen gray is the color, or just like there's a couple like white and gray, and there's like a light brown color in like the regular palette. That was like what everybody used at the time. This video ended up being quite a bit longer than I thought it was going to be, especially since it was such a small build. Like it's only a 5x5 and 2 stories, but the video ended up being 30 minutes long. And I tried to cut out as much footage as I could from like I said, I cut out all the part of like me doing the large windows or like when I'm coloring stuff, because that's pretty boring. But it still ended up being 30 minutes long. I thought about trying to like cut out more of the footage. It's kind of hard to decide to like what to put in the video and what not to, because I don't think like some of the footage is more important than the other parts or like more boring. It's all kind of the same. So trying to like narrow that down is like really hard. I just found it easier to just keep everything in. I struggled a lot with the colors in the kitchen because I was really trying to balance the like black, brown, and white. I really don't like too much white in my builds because I feel like it feels very like blank, unfinished, kind of like hospital-y. So I tried to do less white and more of like the black and the browns. I decided I really wanted tiles in the kitchen, but that meant that I had to kind of cut up the floor differently and use some triangular basic shapes, because I wanted a more like seamless transition from the wood to the tiles. I truly did not realize how indecisive I am until I watched the footage back. It's crazy the amount of times like I go back and change the colors of stuff. You could probably notice like multiple times during this video, like where a wall will be painted a certain color and then it'll cut to another clip and it's just completely different. I do that a lot. It's kind of, I just like want things to be balanced, and like when I do something in one space, then I kind of have the urge to go back and edit something in like the previous space that I was working on, and it just kind of ends up being like an ongoing cycle until I'm happy with everything. I always put my windows in, actually I always put my front windows in first, and then I do kind of the floor plan and add the like other windows later. But what I've noticed is that it means the windows are usually kind of very strangely placed in the back, which I guess is okay. Like, you're not really looking, like, who's looking at the back, right? But it still like kind of hurts me. Like, the front will look like so aesthetic, and like the windows in the back are just crazy. But then they look really nice on the inside, so you know, it's kind of a trade-off. I knew I had this like vision from the beginning that I was gonna have these large windows in the front and then these hanging like pendant lights, and that turned out so good. Like, when you're looking at it from the front, it's like the perfect view of like those through the window. I was going to use spiral stairs because they take up significantly less room, but once I had that kind of like hallway, I just figured the other stairs would be better and it would have like a really nice view from the front of the house. So I definitely don't regret that, even though it did take up some space. One of the other things I struggled with when I was making this video is I wasn't sure how much I should speed up the footage, because this is the first ever video that I have made, and I like feel like it's a little bit chaotic, but I ended up doing it at 4 times speed in order to really speed up the video a bit and make it a lot shorter. But I also don't know if it makes it like harder to watch, especially since this is such like a small build. I feel like I'm constantly like going into the walls and things like that. So hopefully it's not too bad. I might have to adjust that in the future, we'll see. So now I'm on to decorating the kitchen. I usually like my spaces like kind of full, but not super cluttered. So I feel like I always end up using those same plates by the sink. I love those. That's one of my favorite things. Usually put some stuff like by the stove, some paper towels, plants. I put plants everywhere. I just feel like plants are so nice. They really like make the space a lot more lively, especially like in this case when it's like all black and brown and white. I think that the pops of green are really helpful. Something I've started doing recently is I don't really use rugs anymore. I use basic shapes instead. And I think I started doing that because rugs kind of stick off the floor quite a bit. And so then they'll cover up like the bottoms of chairs and lamps and things like that. Whereas if you use basic shapes, you can lower those really far into the floor and then they don't like stick into your furniture as much. So I think I end up using basic shapes for all of the rugs in this house. Of course, it also means you can get them to be like any size and shape, which is really nice. I make like a small oval rug for the kitchen out of like a couple cylinders and a square. Now you can see me rebuilding that console table. Like I said, I pretty much just remodeled it, like it's the same style. I just wanted it to like fit more nicely into the like cubbies in the basic shape that I have on on the other side, and it was looking a little messy with the one that was already in the game. I really do like the layout of like the kitchen, the living room, because even though both of the spaces are pretty cramped, I feel like there's still enough room to like walk around and stuff. I had to use like a really small coffee table for the living room because there was just no room for anything else. I kept trying out a ton of different tables, but like I wanted you to have space to be able to actually walk in front of the couch. So I put like the little circular one in there. And then in the cubbies, I so wish we had more shoes in this game because I love the idea of like putting shoes in like a cubby or a little storage thing by the door. But the only options we have are slippers or flip-flops, which aren't most people's go-to shoe options. Slippers are obviously like indoor shoes, and then you're only wearing flip-flops if it's super hot outside. So it feels a little funny to just like always be throwing flip-flops into my build. I wish we had some like, I don't know, sneakers, heels, anything like that would be awesome. If you see some little like red figurines pop up, that's because my friend kept joining and throwing them in there, and then I like wouldn't even notice until later. I had like completely forgotten about that when I watched back the footage, and I was so confused like why those kept showing up. But then I remembered. So that's why those are there. I think I really need to get into like making some of my own like smaller decorations out of basic shapes. I think that would be really fun, but I haven't really done that before in my builds. I usually use basic shapes for just like the big furniture pieces and stuff like that. So I just threw in some like books, some plants, things like that into the living room, and then I cut all the footage of me coloring those because that was super long and super boring. Like I said, I'm very indecisive when it comes to building, and especially with my colors. So I will literally spend like 2 minutes coloring the most like basic little decoration. and no one wants to watch that. I'm always so impressed by people that are able to like constantly put out like YouTube videos or like even TikToks, because I'm someone that like does things kind of like in phases. So like I'm not really able to just like play one game just like I don't know, every day for a month. Like I'm usually like obsessed with a game for like a week and then I'll find some other new thing to be obsessed with. So I'm usually only building in Bloxburg. Like it really depends. It depends what other games I'm like playing at the time. But I feel like I really want to start like building something like once a month. Right now, I don't play too many other games. I'm definitely someone who spends a lot of hours on Sims. That's like by far one of my favorite games. So many hours on there, and I love to build in there too. It's just like it's a very different experience. I love Bloxburg for like flexibility, I guess. Like there's so many more options with basic shapes, and the fact that you're able to change the color and like texture of anything that you want is like makes such a big difference, and like you just have so much more creative freedom. Whereas, I mean, obviously Sims has more of that like gameplay aspect, but some of the swatches on the furniture are so terrible, and I just wish I could change them myself. It's also nice because Bloxburg, like in comparison to Sims, is like cheap. I mean, it depends. I've never bought currency in the game, but I do have all of the game passes, so that costs some money. But Sims is crazy because they're constantly coming out with like expansion packs that cost $40. Like, that's insane. I never pay full price for them though. Like, I have a rule with Sims packs, especially expansion packs. I will only buy them when they are at 50% off because I am not spending more than $20 on an expansion pack. I just wish we had like more options for building games. Like there's such a large number of like other genres for games, like FPS games, whatever. But there's really not that many building games. I play Bloxburg, I play Sims, I play some House Flipper and House Flipper 2. That's really fun. I would definitely recommend that game for someone that loves building, especially House Flipper 2 in sandbox mode. It's similar to Bloxburg in the sense that you have a lot of creativity and the fact that you can change the colors and patterns of pretty much all of the furniture in there as well. I don't know if anyone has heard of the game Raft, but honestly, building a raft in that game is so fun. I've played that game a couple times, and it's more of like a story exploration game, but I love the building aspect of it. I think if a game has any building or character customization, it's immediately up my alley. Now I'm decorating that little space that's behind the stairs. I think, as I said earlier, you got the toaster, the coffee maker. I also added a microwave. And then I used some of those like little containers and sized them up because I was thinking they could be like coffee beans and like sugar. I think maybe I could have gone a little warmer with the lighting in here. I'm always pretty picky with like the lighting of my spaces because like I want them to be kind of warm, but also like yellow lighting can look a little old. So I feel like you kind of have to find the balance there. So that's the kitchen pretty much all done. I honestly didn't have too much space to decorate because there's only 3 counters and 2 of them literally have the sink and the stove, so I can't put anything there anyways. So I finished it up just by adding some soap and then some towels by the sink. And now to move on to the bathroom, I knew I wanted to do a custom sink. Those are probably one of my favorite things to do, like custom. I love doing beds and I love doing sinks. I think I found a sink on Pinterest that I used for inspiration for this, but I wasn't able to find the photo of that just because it was so long ago. It's funny because I actually built like an entirely different bathroom, and then I came back to it like I think a day later and I hated it, so I redid the entire thing. So that's what this footage is. This is me doing it for the second time. But I do like how it came out. I originally, the issue was that I was trying to fit in an entire like bath shower combo, but there's honestly just not enough room for that because if I had the bathtub in there, there was just really no room to put the toilet. I mean, it is only a 2x2 and a bathtub basically takes up like 2 whole tiles. So that doesn't really leave space for much else. I also have a bad habit of putting like large windows in bathrooms, but I did not do that this time. There is a window, but It's smaller and it also has blinds, so I feel like that's not as bad. I have a habit of like when I'm doing the floor plan, putting the bathroom in the front of the house, and then like I said, I do the windows to like look good in the front, and that usually means putting a large one in the bathroom. But let's be honest, that would be terrible in real life to have a large window in your bathroom in the front of your house. That would actually be terrible. So I'm trying not to do that anymore in my builds. I also added a little cabinet above the toilet using basic shapes, and I think that turned out all right. I'm always like, I can never tell like if my cabinets look very good. I usually just use like one square for the back and then a couple smaller ones that like stick out a little more that are like the doors of the cabinet. And I'm not sure if that looks super good, but that's usually how like I do my cabinet for the sinks and whatever else. I don't think I did it in this build, but one of my other kind of like favorite build hacks, I think that I started doing it on my own. I don't think I got it from someone else, but I'm sure someone else has done it before. But I like to use just like a picture frame as a cabinet door, and then it's really fun because you can put like a tile in the middle in like the picture frame part, or maybe like a mosaic, and then it looks kind of fancy. I used some like strip lights in the bathroom, but I don't think I would have kept those if I had done this build now. I feel like they are kind of modern, but I feel like they look maybe a little bit tacky. But I don't know, maybe that's just me. So that's pretty much the bathroom all done. I think I just go ahead and recolor some stuff. And I think I add some soap to the little shelves that are in the shower. I like a lot of the like bathroom decorations that we have, and I kind of wish that I'd had more like service area to put things on, but I only had that little shelf in the corner and then the little ones by the shower pretty much. I only had enough counter space for like a toothbrush and some soap by the sink. I'm so happy it's finally summer because the days are so much longer. Like in the winter, I feel like I have no motivation, and then summer comes around and there's just like so much I want to get done. Not to mention, I'm currently a college student and I'm not taking any classes this summer, so it means I have a lot more free time to do the stuff that I actually want to do. I want to apologize for the fact that, especially during this part, I am like in the walls constantly. But it's really hard to decorate a space that's only 2 by 2 without constantly running into the walls. So now we're moving on to the bedroom. I added a little closet in the corner. And then I don't know if this is super realistic, but I also put a washer and dryer in the corner. I just kind of like stuck that there since I had some space for that. And like I said, I really like putting like functional objects in my houses. For the bed, I went for a pretty typical design, just like a couple wood slats. I don't love the double beds in this game. I can't remember the last time I've used them. I just feel like they're like so wide, they kind of look a little awkward. Like I feel like they're even wider than a king-sized bed. So I always just put a couple of small ones together, which works pretty well. There's some like bedding you can't really use though, or like patterns on the bed because then they'll glitch pretty bad. But I just kind of work around that because I prefer that. Not to mention, I didn't really have space for that big of a bed anyways. So it's kind of a good hack to still have like 2 spots for the bed with it still being a little bit smaller. I kind of wish for this build that I had made custom nightstands. That's something I do a lot too. But I think I just used like, I think it's the industrial ones. It's honestly been a while. I can't really like remember the names for the different furniture. I also really like the like strip lights that I did around the bed. I thought that looked really nice. I made one more wider window for above the bed, but I can't remember if I end up keeping that. I either use that one or I end up copy and pasting the like smaller windows from downstairs. I tried to reuse the windows as much as possible because they were such a pain to make. It's like structurals are so annoying because you will think that you put them in a straight line and then you'll change your angle and it will just be completely lopsided. And then you just get to do it over and over again until it looks right. The other thing you'll probably notice is that I kind of like flip back and forth between different rooms a lot. So I went ahead and was like working on the bedroom, but now I'm back downstairs working on that little like, it's not an entryway or a hallway really. Stairwell? Stairwell. I'm not sure if either of those is the right word for that. But I just put a little bench there, and like I said, there's no shoes. So we just have some slippers under there. And then I start decorating the outside a little bit. I didn't really have much room on that like porch area. So I just put like a trash can and a bike. And then I had this really cool idea for the balcony where I knew I wanted some kind of fountain. I think it was kind of inspired by this one that's actually in House Flipper, where it's got a little box at the bottom that has like gravel, I think, and then there's kind of a wall behind the fountain, which I get to later. I wanted this spot on the balcony to just kind of be more of like a lounging area. So I added a lounge chair and then I think a little bit of like gardening stuff. It's not like a formal gardening spot, it's just kind of like if you had like a few plants that were out on the rooftop. I also felt like the balcony kind of needed something else. I think I originally had like a pergola there, but I ended up changing it to just a pillar and then some string lights. And I think that was a bit nice. It felt a little like heavy with the pergola, if that makes sense. And I just wanted it to be a little more like open. You can see here now that I'm like adding that wall that goes behind the fountain. So it looks like its own like decoration rather than just being like part of that wall. I also added some wall ivy. Like I said, I just love plants. I just think greenery makes everything look so much better. So I kind of just threw that around the build where I thought it looked nice. I feel like I get lazy towards the end of my builds and I just start like copying things from other places, which I guess most people do because I feel like you're gonna want to reuse some of like the plants and decorations, especially if they're already recolored. Just makes it so much easier. I love doing custom pillows on the bed. I just think it really like pulls the whole thing together. I also like using that like extra blanket. I use it as a throw blanket, and then you'll also see that I use another one kind of at the top of the bed as if like the comforter was like folded over, I guess. Again, I think it just adds like more dimension to the bed, makes it look more full. So I do that pretty much on every build. At this point, all the like major furniture and everything is in. I'm just like finishing up on the decorations. I wasn't really sure what to add by the washer because I already put the laundry basket like in the closet. I think I just end up putting some like little towels, which I feel like is pretty normal, like extra towels for like the kitchen or the bathroom or whatever. And then some soaps because we don't really have, I don't think we have laundry detergent in the game. So I just used some like bottles of soap instead. Something else that I really like doing is just having like a variety of different like wall patterns and textures. I think it can like add so much to a build when there's just like a lot of variety. So I used a couple, some of the walls are like brick, and then some of them are like a dark wallpaper, which is really nice. I thought about adding like a wooden wall, but there was already so much wood with like the floor, and then a lot of the other like furniture pieces are that same color. Overall, for a 5x5 build, I feel like it makes a good use of the space that's available, and I think that colors match the vibe of the build. So with that, that's the end of the video. If you want to see more builds, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.